Hello everyone, this is Timothy Yonks, the Digital Apothecary, and I'm going to go over basically another list I put together recently, which is digital health medication adherence companies. A lot of these are startups, and basically this stems off of a few comments I received when I made my list on the digital health and startup companies for pharmacy. There's a large amount of questions like, why didn't I include medication adherence companies? And the reality is I already actually have a list on those on my website, and it's a lot. As you can see, this is most of the ones I'm aware of. I know there's more out there, but the reality is there's so many that it just becomes... You can see why I did not put this on the other infographic I created. So I'm going to kind of go into detail here about the ones I have. And so there's 9 different breakdowns. And I'm going to go through each one. So first off is we're going to start with virtually observed therapy, or VOT. If you're familiar with directly observed therapy, it's where you have a patient come in to like an office or a clinic and they take their medication in front of you and you verify they took it. This is often seen for like tuberculosis. You have a person that's diagnosed, they have to go to public health, or a nurse will watch them and document they took their medication. Pretty self-explanatory, but as you can imagine, the overhead for this gets extravagant. Home health care does this for medication management. There will be a nurse that goes out to a patient's home and they'll just document that the patient swallowed their medications for whatever needs to be done for their care plan. So 3 companies I mentioned here: Shura here, Emoca, and AICure. AICure is a very interesting AI company that uses a lot of different data to watch someone swallow it. Some of the other ones just record you swallowing it, and then they basically have someone watch it on the back end and confirm that you swallowed the medication. So AICure is like a standalone platform that just verifies someone swallowed it. So where do I see these things going? I think they're really good for clinical studies because they focus on mainly only a few drugs. I think this is very difficult for like a bunch of medications, because if you could think about it, let's suppose you had like 6 medications you took in the morning. You'd be like, all right, here's a smartphone. If I had to hold it, okay, one, click through, do all this stuff. Here's another one, click through, do another. For a patient that might not be very patient friendly. I'm not too sure if these companies are aiming to do multiple pills at a time. That might be a changing factor for them, but there's some thoughts I have about them. Next one is Smart Pill Organizers. This one is huge. These are basically companies that create devices that help organize medications. It could be done different ways. I have a few of these I'm going to be reviewing and I'm going to be putting from my website soon. That I've been given. Like I have one from Tiny Logics. I have one from Vega, for instance. I have a pill drill. I'll show how those look coming up, and you can see what I mean. They're like almost like smart pill boxes and the little containers that basically light up instead of alert, and they integrate with an app until you take your medication. I think it's really cool because it's like the whole internet of things that combine together to just alert someone to take their medications. These are meant for multiple medications compared to a smart pill bottle, which, like, here's an example, like would be like a Pillsy. You have the sensor that goes on top of the pill bottle, and when it alerts you to take it, you open it up, and because you open it up, then it determines that there was a dose removed, theoretically, and that means someone was taking their medication. So there's a bunch here. Adherence is probably one of the biggest ones I know of that has a lot of literature supporting it, and they've had a very big inroad into especially pharmacy market. I would really closely watch this group because there's studies coming out, and there's a few others here. I'm going to bounce over to patient reward systems. So these are apps. So don't get me wrong. My face is covering this section down here, but I do not include just all mobile medical apps because there's thousands, there's hundreds, and there's so many apps out there nowadays that have a medication reminding feature in them. Almost all like the chain pharmacies have them too, CVS and Walgreens, for instance. I'm not listing them. I'm not going to. I will highlight a few. One, for instance, if we were just looking at medication adherence app that has evidence out there supported use, that's very cool, is MediSafe. So I said it, MediSafe is on my radar. I do like their product, but it's just one of many out there, but probably one of the only ones that have any literature supporting its use. So take that for what it's worth. But in terms of patient reward systems, these are using behavioral economics or even gamification to reward patients to take their medications. You have companies like Wealth who are working with Mount Sinai, Mango Health, and then you have Semper Health and Health Prize and Perks. Perks is a company based in Australia, so I thought they were really cool. So I've been following them. I put them on this list. But basically, it could be a lottery system or it could be a reward system. You take the medications, and after taking it for so many days, there's a chaining effect, and then you either get gift cards or you get a cash allowance, or you go into a lottery system and get rewarded with a cash prize for your adherence. So I think that's cool. But these I put separately because they have that kind of feature. Next, I'm going to focus on blister pack devices. These are things that fit on top of medications in a blister pack, and when it vibrates or moves, it can sense that a dose was taken. One example would be Pop It. This is it, and basically what you do is clip on a pack of medications and you remove them, and again I'll show this in a demo. You would then see that a dose was removed. They have mostly, like QPath Innovations, focus on blister packs for bingo cards and such, but Pop It and ABS seems to be more focused on, let's say, birth control. I think that might be one way to put it. And then I'm going to bounce into, let's go into Biosensors. Only two companies I really follow here, Proteus and eTechRx. Proteus probably has a bigger name because Proteus has teamed up with Otsuka, and Proteus is also teamed with other companies like Gilead. I know they're working on a study for PrEP with Truvada, but in any event, Otsuka brought to market the first bioadjustable censored package or prepared drug, Abilify MySite. It has a sensor in there, so when you swallow the medication, it goes in your stomach and it dissolves. There's a patch you wear above your stomach that then when it dissolves, it sends a ping to it that then goes on and alerts provider or someone else that you took the medication. eTechRx works very similarly, and these are, to me, one of the only objective ways, and virtually observed therapy I would put out there as well. These are two objective ways of basically tracking adherence in real time, compared to other ones that kind of rely on subjective measurements of that you assume a patient took the medication. That's my thought. I'm not saying that's a standard, but that's my own personal thoughts on this. And I think they're great for data tracking because of that. Do they increase adherence? No. If you look at Proteus Digital Health, they want to push that for adherence. I think it does it. But even if you look at Abilify MySite on the package labeling, it does not say it increases adherence. It is a tool to track adherence. You still have to leave that to a clinician to help guide the process and such. And I think that's a very valuable thing to have. Because even if you look at patient claims data, NPR and such, you can only get so far with that because it's based on billing claims and refills. So that's kind of my 2 cents. Let's put it that way. Then you have these home assistant pill dispensers. Now these could be very similar to some of these smart pill organizers like Hero Health, MedSentry, Livy. These are like huge boxes you put medications in, and they spit out the medication and the patient takes them when they get alert. Where I separate these is these home assistants actually have another level to them. They, like, take for instance Spencer Health Solutions. You can actually talk to a pharmacist. You can call pharmacists, ask questions. Cavalier Health has like a robot. Pillow is this very cute thing that has like a robot face that can watch you and integrate data to like track how your health is going and such. So I put these guys as the next step up of these guys because they had this other feature. It's almost like if Amazon Alexa and Smart Pill Organizer had a baby. That's the best way I can describe it because it can do these multiple features. So these are a little bit more expensive because of that, but I see some benefits here, especially for some disease management outcomes. So they're on my radar for there. Next, let's talk about smart inhalers. So you have Adherence, Cohero Health, Propeller, Connect Health, and Amico. Probably the biggest one a lot of people know of is Propeller Health. They got acquired by ResMed for about, like, I want to say a couple $100 million this year. But they're still their standalone company. Adherence is based in New Zealand. They've been working, I think, closely with AstraZeneca, and then Cohero Health and a few others are out there. So basically how these things work is, like, I have one that's from, this is Haley from Adherence. So basically when you take a dose and you squeeze this thing, the sensor around it will detect that an actuation was given. It's an actuation, so you know that when you press this that someone used medication. There was an interesting study from Propeller Health that showed that people just tracking how they're using actuation are using their inhalers inappropriately. And what I mean by that, let's talk about SABA. So this is ProAir in here. We know that if you take a dose, you're supposed to take one and wait 60 seconds and repeat the dose. And what did Propeller find with her sensors? People were going squirt and then hitting it again. So they weren't even waiting 60 seconds. So they're not even actually following proper instructions to use it. And that's very good, because it comes back to this. It's all about this data and how to manage and use it. So if you know a patient is not using their inhaler correctly, first you want to address that first before you add on additional therapy. And that goes back with adherence overall, because it's such a medication cascade complex you can go into. Like, let's talk about hypertension. We know it takes 2 or 3 medications to help control someone's blood pressure, but you get a point where you might question, does this person have resistant hypertension? One of the biggest causes of resistant hypertension is the fact that a person is not adherent to the medications. So what do? You just add on more medications and more. It increases side effects, it increases costs for the patient, etc., etc. Versus realizing, okay, they're just not taking medication. So let's work on that first before we add on more therapy. And oftentimes I would question if that's a huge problem for a lot of patients out there. Data seems to say anywhere between 40 and 60% of patients on chronic medications are not adherent. This varies for different reasons. So tackling it multifactorial is very key. Catching their data to figure out what's going on is very important. And I've talked about this in the past about what I think of adherence. I'm not going to go into detail here, but I think these all have their own low places. In any event, the one thing about smart inhalers that recently happened this year is Teva, at the very end of 2018, got approval by the FDA for a digihaler. So they're basically their new Pro Air RespiClick basically has a smart sensor in there, and that when you use it, it detects an actuation, but it can actually detect how well you inspire the medication. So when you inspire the medication, you can tell how big the flow is. I think that's a game changer. I think other pharmaceutical companies are getting on that as well. So this is going to be a battle between pharma with their own proprietary devices versus these sensors. I think that's what's going to be the big breakdown here in the next few years. Next is smart injectable devices. I recently worked on a paper with some other colleagues that kind of talked about a bunch of these. That's listed on my website. You can look at that. But it's basically this whole idea is, how do you take I'll show you like an insulin pen, and how can you upgrade this thing? So like this is a Go cap made by Common Sensing, goes on top of it instead of like the normal clap, and it detects how much insulin is being dispensed, up to 10 units I want to say. So these might be very useful because of different features. They can detect temperature and make sure the insulin is still fine and stable. It can detect how much insulin is remaining. It can detect and give recommendations how much insulin to dispense. Where's this all going to go? I think Lilly and Novo Nordisk are on the right path. They're making their own smart insulin pens. These are supposed to come out 2019. Novo Nordisk seems to have more information out there in the public. There's a few pens they're going to be releasing either in the 3rd or 4th quarter, it sounds like, at this current time. Lilly has mentioned they're working on them. I don't know if they're going to hit the 2019 deadline. I think they might hit 2020 at this point, but they've been kind of in the stealth mode. But in any event, it's just their insulin pens, and they'll be able to do stuff. I think they're going to work with digital therapeutic apps to help out recommend dosing, and also with this huge push for continuous glucose monitoring, such as Freestyle Libre, and then Dexcom and such, to track blood glucose real time. We're going to have like this whole artificial pancreas feedback loop that you can probably establish at some point, and that's where these are going to fit in. I think that'll be really cool. I also have Bayer here. I recently worked on a CE for Pharmacy Times that kind of talks about the new product, which is based on their Beta Connect, which is injectable for a beta interferon, and it has some technology in your Bluetooth connection that can help remind patients when it's taken. It has apps that can feedback on data for the patient for MS. I think it's really cool. So everything's being upgraded. I think what the bottom line is, you see here, smart inhalers, smart injectables, and bioadjustable sensors, is that all pharma is getting on board. Whether or not they're going to acquire these companies to basically use, I know there are some partnerships for some of these companies out here with pharma. This is, I think, where things are going to go. So I think is it a matter that we're just going to have sensing technology, and they're going to be standalone devices for a short time, and then eventually pharma comes on board with their own sensors, and everything, and all the drugs in like 10 to 20 years will just have sensors built into them. I honestly think that may be where things might be going in the near future. And I think this is a very interesting space. I mean, watching this has been very cool. Probably ones that are on my radar, obviously Proteus is huge on my radar. These guys are on my radar. This is huge. This, I think, especially in clinical trials, this is going to have a huge pickup. The other devices and such, I think they're going to have to really push more. So like as mentioned, like this one, and this one. I think they're going to be really tied closely to pharma. I think that's going to be like their big push. They're going to want to work with pharmaceutical companies and the payers, versus this, and this. They have more of a B2C model, or business to consumer, instead of like business to business or B2B. So like those were B2B. I think these are like B2C, and I think they would like to be B2B, but the problem is they're going to have to demonstrate some evidence of support that they can do stuff. And some of these companies actually have literature. So go back to my website and you'll see I actually cite some of these studies that are backing them up. I think they need it to show to payers, hey, if you want to pay and put this in a patient's home and my device costs $300, well, by doing that, we're going to save you thousands of dollars. So they're going to have to do some justification here. And that, I think, for investors, are going to have to watch very closely as they throw money into this stuff. So that sums up my thoughts currently on digital health medication adherence companies. If I miss any, or that you feel like you want to mention any in the comments, feel free. I'll look into them. And when I update this one, I'll take those into account. So in any event, take care and have a good day.